Sponsored by Rabbi Shlomi and Mirla Greenwald. This is a Sicha from Likutei Sichos, Chelek Alef, Parshas Vayakhel, Sicha Alef. And the topic of the Sicha is, in this week's Parsha, we learn about the mitzvah of Shabbos, followed by the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan, the work of the Mishkan. And there are 4 parts in the Sicha. The Rabbi will, number 1, ask 5 questions on the way these 2 mitzvahs are presented. Number 2, present the key to answering these 5 questions. Number 3, based on this, answer all 5 questions. And number 4, present the hira, the lesson in Avodas HaAdam. As we explained many times, Rashi on the Torah addresses every question that comes up on the simple level of learning. And if we find a question that Rashi doesn't address, it means that it's not a question at all, and the matter is understood on its own. That's the rule when it comes to Rashi. And if there's indeed a question that Rashi doesn't have an answer to, Rashi will explicitly say, Eini Yedea, I don't know. So according to this, we have to understand the reason of Rashi for not commenting on a number of simple questions that arise on the first psukim in our parsha. Right at the beginning of our parsha, there's the mitzvah to keep Shabbos. It says over there, Vayakhel Moshe Gamer, Moshe gathered the Yidden, Vayemer Aleim, and he said to them, Eila hadvarim asher tziva Hashem la'aseis oisam. These are the things that Hashem commanded to do them. Sheishes yamim te'asim alocha. For 6 days you should do work. Uvayim hashvi gamer, and on the 7th day you should rest. So there we have at the beginning the gathering, Moshe gathering the Yidden and telling them about the mitzvah of Shabbos, and immediately afterwards there's the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan, where it says, Vayemer Moshe Gomer, Moshe said, Zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem lemer, this is the matter that Hashem said that I should say over to you, Chumi itchem truma Gomer, take from yourselves a truma, a donation, and it moves on to talk about the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan. And there are 5 questions here. Number 1, why are these 2 mitzvahs separated into 2 amiras? How come it says the word Vayemer twice, once before the mitzvah of Shabbos, and once before the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan? Why does it not just say Vayemer, that Moshe told them, the mitzvah of Shabbos, and the mitzvah of Melechas HaMishkan? And especially since Rashi explains that the mitzvah regarding Shabbos is only said here as an introduction to the main mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan, to teach that the Melechas HaMishkan isn't deicha the mitzvah of Shabbos. So that strengthens our question that the word Vayemer only needed to be said once, and there's no need for it to be said twice, because really both of these mitzvahs over here are part of one thing, which is Hashem is telling the Yidden the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan, and he's just saying beforehand the mitzvah of Shabbos, in order to teach the Yidden that the Melechas HaMishkan is not doicha, it doesn't push off the mitzvah of Shabbos, and they can do work related to the Mishkan when it's on Shabbos. The second question is, why does it say by the first mitzvah of Shabbos, Eila hadvarim asher tziva Hashem la'aseis oisam? Why does it have the words la'aseis oisam? It could have just said Eila hadvarim asher tziva Hashem, and then say Sheishes Yamim, 6 days you could work, and the 7th day you have to rest. Or it could say Eila hadvarim asher tziva Hashem lemer. Hashem said that I should say over to you, like it says in most places, as it in fact says by the next mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan. It says Zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem. It doesn't say la'aseis oisam. It says lemer. So why over here does it say by Shabbos la'aseis oisam? The third question is a continuation to the second question. The second question was asking, what's the reason the words la'aseis oisam are written here? The third question is asking that not only is it a question why they're written here, because they seem extra, but they actually seem not to belong here. They shouldn't be written here. There's a reason not to write the words la'aseis oisam, since here the mitzvah is about not doing work. It's not a command to do something, it's a command not to do something, not to work on Shabbos. So not only is it a question, why would you write the words la'aseis oisam anywhere? Over here specifically, they seem not to belong, since the mitzvah is about not doing something. And this question is further emphasized by the fact that the very next mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan, which is about doing something, where there the words Lases Oisim could be appropriate, and specifically there the words Lases Oisim are not written, and over here by Shabbos, where it's a negative mitzvah, it does use the words Lases Oisim. The fourth question is, based on the above, in question number 1, that the mitzvah of Shabbos is only said over here in order to teach that the Melechas HaMishkan is not doicha, the mitzvah of Shabbos, so then Moshe should have first told the Yidden the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan, and only afterwards he should have told them the mitzvah of Shabbos. And the fifth question is, and this is a continuation to the fourth question, that even more so, the question that first Moshe should have told the Yidden the mitzvah of Melechas HaMishkan and afterwards the mitzvah of Shabbos is strengthened by the fact that that's how Moshe heard it from Hashem. Moshe first heard from Hashem the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan, and only afterwards did Hashem say the mitzvah of Shabbos, and he said, Ach es Shabbosai tishmeru, that you have to keep Shabbos, and the Melechas HaMishkan is not Deicha Shabbos. So why did Moshe switch the order and first say the mitzvah of Shabbos and then the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan? Now we're going to move on to the key of the Sicha. That once we present this idea, we're going to see how all of our questions are answered. So the explanation in all of this is as follows. At the time of the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan, when Moshe repeated the mitzvah of Shabbos to teach the Yidden that the Melechas HaMishkan is not doicha the mitzvah of Shabbos, so even though Moshe, like we said, just received the special mitzvah about Shabbos, in Parshas Sicha, where it says, Ach es Shabbosai tishmeru, which is telling the Yidden that although they have to build a Mishkan, nevertheless they still have to keep Shabbos. But nevertheless, although he received the special mitzvah of Shabbos just now, when he gave it over to the Yidden, he told them the first and primary mitzvah of Shabbos, not the one that he just heard, but rather the one in the Aseres HaDibros. And Moshe Rabbeinu emphasized that it was this mitzvah, the one from the Aseres HaDibros, in order to explain to the Yidden why indeed Shabbos is not pushed off for the Melechas HaMishkan. Based on the fact that Shabbos is taught in the Aseres HaDibros, that explains to us why the Melechas HaMishkan is not Doicha Shabbos. There were many unique qualities to the mitzvahs given in the Aseres HaDibros. We have 5 of them over here. Number 1, the Yidden heard all of them directly from Hashem in one dibur. First Hashem said all Aseres HaDibros in one dibur, and the Yidden heard all of them. Then Hashem started repeating each and every one, and he only repeated 2 of them before the Yidden said that it was too much for them. But initially, the Yidden heard all of the Aseres HaDibros, including the mitzvah of Shabbos, directly from Hashem in one dibur. Number 2, when Moshe reviewed them, he gave them over again to the Yidden. He was reviewing what they heard directly from Hashem, because after the Yidden said that it was too much for them, Moshe Rabbeinu then went through the remaining 8 Aseres HaDibros. And at that point, he was reviewing to them the 8 that they heard from Hashem. Number 3, the Aseres HaDibros were said in a Kol Gadol, and they saw the Kailas. Number 4, the Yidden said Hain to each dibur. And number 5, they were said in the presence of the entire Klal Yisrael, in the presence of all the Yidden. And therefore, even though Melechas HaMishkan is very important, as Hashem said, Va'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'seicham, nevertheless it's understood that this mitzvah that they heard from Moshe, the one of the Melechas HaMishkan, cannot be doicha the mitzvah of Shabbos, that is one of the Aseres HaDibros, which all Yidden heard directly from Hashem himself. And so Moshe Rabbeinu was telling this to the Yidden in these psukim. He was telling this to the Yidden that the reason the Melechas HaMishkan is not Deicha Shabbos is because of the greatness and the importance of the mitzvah of Shabbos, that it was part of the Aseres HaDibros. And based on that, we'll now answer all of our questions, because we'll see how Moshe Rabbeinu was communicating this to the Yidden in the way he told them these 2 mitzvahs of Shabbos and the Melechas HaMishkan. And based on this, we're going to answer all of our questions. We're going to start off by answering questions 2 and 3, then we're going to move on to question 1, and then we're going to move on to questions 4 and 5. So this idea that the warning that Moshe Rabbeinu was telling the Yidden over here against doing work on Shabbos. So this idea that this warning was actually Moshe Rabbeinu telling them the mitzvah that they heard themselves from the mouth of Hashem in the Aseres HaDibros. So this is expressed in the wording La Seis Oisam. Since in the Aseres HaDibros, the Yidden weren't only commanded on the negative aspect of Shabbos, but also on the positive aspect of Shabbos. The Yidden weren't just commanded not to do malacha on Shabbos, they were also commanded Zachar Shem Shabbos Lakache, which is a positive aspect. So Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them over here that he's referring to the mitzvah of Shabbos that they heard in the Aseres HaDibros. And because the mitzvah of Shabbos is in the Aseres HaDibros, that's why the Melechas HaMishkan is not deicha the mitzvah of Shabbos, because of how great the mitzvah of Shabbos is. And that's why it's also divided into 2 amiras, since they are entirely 2 different amiras. We have one over here, the mitzvah of Shabbos. That's a mitzvah that Moshe reviewed what they all heard directly from Hashem. So that's on one level, a much higher level. And then there's also a mitzvah of a Melechas HaMishkan that only Moshe heard from Hashem, which is on a lower level. So it's divided into 2 amiras again to emphasize this point that Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them the mitzvah of Shabbos that they heard in the Aseres HaDibros. And now it's also understood why Moshe told them the mitzvah of Shabbos before the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan. Because besides for the fact that they heard this mitzvah of Shabbos first, unlike what we asked in the question that the mitzvah of Shabbos over here was told to Moshe Rabbeinu after the mitzvah of Melechas HaMishkan, but now that we explained that we're referring to the mitzvah of Shabbos that they heard in the Aseres HaDibros, so it was actually told to them before the mitzvah of Melechas HaMishkan. But besides for that, in this way, Moshe Rabbeinu was hinting to the greatness and importance of Shabbos over the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan. That it comes first, that it was said directly by Hashem in all the different parts that we said. He said it first to communicate its greatness and importance, and that therefore it's not pushed off because of Shabbos. The Hira, the lesson in all of this, and Avodas HaAdam, even though the mitzvah and warning against doing malacha on Shabbos in our parsha is only a detail in the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan, nevertheless Moshe made it an important matter and taught it in its own amira. And even more so, from the psukim it's implied that Vayakhel Moshe, the gathering of Moshe, of all of the Yidden, was primarily for the mitzvah of not doing malacha on Shabbos, and only afterwards came the mitzvah of the Melechas HaMishkan to bring about the V'shachanti b'soicham. And this is a hera of the importance of la furshe me'isura, to distance oneself and others from doing something which was forbidden. That even when a person is occupied with the greatest of things, like v'shachanti b'soicham, at the very same time and even beforehand, a person must know and be careful to the greatest degree from any action that's usr. Even though through this action, if not for being usr, it would hasten the v'shachanti b'soicham by the person.